Hey guys, Jaren here, and I'm back with another video, and this is actually something different. I want to get into doing discussion videos as well as gameplay videos. So this is going to be the first discussion video that I do, and this is going to be my top 15 Megaman X characters. So Megaman X is probably my favorite game franchise of all time. Well, Mega Man in general is my favorite gaming franchise of all time. And Mega Man X, the original Mega Man X, was the first video game that I ever played at 5. So I really wanted to talk about this. And yeah, if you guys really enjoy this, please, share it, comment, tell me things I could, do better. Tell me, if you like it, whatever, or just, talk about, some of the things that I, talk about on this list. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about my top 10 Mega Man X characters. Alright, so for number 15, I have the X Hunters. Now, I know this is kind of cheating, but hear me out. So, I wanted to include all three of them together because, I think that, if they were separate, they wouldn't really, have that much weight on their own. So, I wanted to, include all three of them together. And the X Hunters, their names are Agile, Violin, and Surges. They all originate from Mega Man X2. And so they're a group of hunters that go after Mega Man X, in his pursuit of, fighting Sigma and going through the Mavericks. And the interesting thing about them is that they all have a piece of Zero, and you have to fight them in order to obtain piece of Zero in order to restore him back. So the first character I want to talk about is Agile. So his name is pretty self-explanatory. He moves very fast. He has a sword. He does little sword waves and just swipe towards you and everything. And all these characters have second stages as well. On the Sigma stage, and with his second stage, he actually has a whole nother different form, and he creates platforms and stuff like that, and you have to keep jumping on it, or you'll be crushed. Unfortunately for him, you can just Shoryuken him really quickly, because on that same stage you get the Shoryuken ability if you know where to find it. So the next character I want to talk about is Violin. Violin, he's very big, bulky, slow, and his main attack is a chain ball. So he'll just sit somewhere, and then he'll have a chain ball going across the whole room, and you just have to dodge it and everything. And he'll also jump up and do these little circular blasts, whatever. But his weakness is the bubble thing. But it's weird though, because charged up, you have to get really close to him, so it's kind of hard to fight him. But once you figure it out, he's not too bad. And his Sigma stage is pretty much the same, which he just has more platforms. I actually think it's a little bit easier, to be honest. And then the last character is Surges, and he's very interesting. So he uses machinery, his first stage and his Sigma stage. He just on platforms and operating little machinery and stuff, and he'll just try to hit you that way, force fields and all that. And I know on the second stage, you can use Overdrive's Ostrich move to destroy his little rider thing, so it'll be easier to hit him. And a really interesting thing about him is that he kind of has ties to Dr. Wily. Um, like why he's so fascinated with Zero and everything. So that's very interesting. Um, but the good thing about like the X Hunters, you actually don't have to fight them. Uh, you can avoid them altogether, like in separate rooms, and you actually don't need them in order for Zero to come back in like the story. Because when you get the Sigma, like you fight Zero, and then he'll just, once you beat him, he'll just turn, good again. He'll come to his senses. So, but that's why they're number 15. They're very interesting characters, but I mean, they're not the most important characters, so that's why I have them there. For number 14, I have Dr. Dopler. So Dr. Dopler, he first appeared in Megaman X3, and that's actually his only appearance. So Dr. Dopler, he quote unquote created a cure for like Mavericks, and he made it like a whole utopia city called Dopler Town. But next thing you know, he ends up being like a bad guy, and then like some of those Mavericks that thought they were gonna be cured, they actually ended up being like part of his army, and so X has to, fight them. And then once he defeats those Mavericks, he goes to Doppler's like fortress or whatever, and goes through that. And once you fight Dr. Dopler himself, after you defeat him, you find out that Sigma was controlling him the whole time, and that he created a new body for Sigma, and he revived Val, and made all those Mavericks to destroy X and Zero. So yeah, that's crazy. But once you defeat him, he comes to his senses. He realized like what he did wrong and everything. And depending on like the decisions you make and how you play the game, once you defeat Sigma, he'll back you to a corner, right? And he'll try to take over your body. But Dr. Doppler, he'll come from the ceiling, and then he'll like hit Sigma with the vaccine or cure or whatever to stop him from like attacking you. So yeah, even though he only appeared in one game, he was a very interesting villain turned good guy at the end. So that's why I have Dr. Doppler at number 14. All right, so for number 13, I have Alia. Now, I know that some people aren't gonna like this because they think, oh, Alia's annoying, she's annoying, whatever. But I don't know, I like her. Now, she was first introduced in Megaman X5, and yeah, in that game, she was pretty annoying because like throughout like every stage, like the whole game would just keep stopping because she'll just want to talk to you, like just about different stuff that you probably already know. So like I can see how like that's very annoying. But yeah, like so Alia, she's like introduced in X5, and she's a navigator. She helps X and Zero like go through the stages and everything. And she actually plays a very important role in Megaman X6. Like, so there's some backstory with her and like the main villain Gate in X6, and like that backstory and some of the things that she did kind of influence, Gate's whole reason for being a villain and doing what he's doing in the game. So I think that really made her more of an important character than what she actually is. And with X7, I never really played X7, but I know like she's annoying in that game too. And in Megaman X8, I think she's tolerable. They have it to where you can press the button in order to activate her voice and everything. So she's okay in Megaman X8 and Megaman X6, but in X5 and X7, she's very annoying. So that's why I couldn't put her too high on the list, but I do think that she is number 13. All right, so for number 12, I have Lumina. Lumina first appearance is in Megaman X8. Lumina is a next generation Reploid, and for the longest time I thought that Lumina was a girl, but it's actually a dude. But yeah, Lumina is a next generation Reploid. You first see Lumina in the beginning of X8, and him and other new generation Reploids are working on something called the Jacob Project. I think it's like an elevator to the moon or something like that. However, when you get to the final stage of the game, after you defeat Sigma, you find out that Lumina is actually like the final boss, the main antagonist of Megaman X8, and he actually used Sigma, and his goal is to destroy all past generation Reploids, including X, Zero, and Axel. So pretty much, you know, X, Zero, and Axel, they have to destroy Lumina because he's trying to like take over the whole world with these, you know, new generation Reploids. So yeah, I thought that, you know, he's a very interesting character, and this is so refreshing that like you play a Megaman X game where Sigma isn't like the final boss of the game. So that's why Lumina is at number 12. For number 11, I have HiMax. HiMax was first introduced in Megaman X6, and that's the only game he's in. But yeah, HiMax is a beast. You first meet him in like the intro stage of Megaman X6 when you play with X, and you can't touch him at all. Like every move that you do, it just like bounces off, and then like he just keeps hitting you, and then once you keep battling him, eventually like he'll just talk to you and say like, stay out my way, you're not good enough, whatever. And then once, you know, you play through the game, power up and everything, and you go through gate stage, you actually face him again. But this time you're more powerful, and you know, you get to actually damage him this time with either X or Zero. And once you defeat him, you know, he's all shocked and everything. He's like, I'm the ultimate weapon, ultimate Reploid. How can I be defeated? Also, HiMax was created by Gate through Zero's DNA, so that probably explains why like he's so powerful. But yeah, once you defeat him, you know, he does all that. But yeah, there's really no particular reason why I have HiMax this high. I just think that, you know, he's just very cool to me, and yeah, that's why he's number 11. Alright, so now we're down to the top 10. So for number 10, I have Dynamo. Dynamo, he's in Megaman X5 and Megaman X6. And obviously he's first introduced in Megaman X5. But yeah, and I just think that he's a really cool character, and he's kind of funny too. Like he just taunts X and Zero, you know, to bother them, to kind of distract them from what they're doing. More so in X5 than in X6. And I just like his attitude and his music. I just think like if there was like voice acting, like he would have like a New York accent, Brooklyn accent, or whatever. But yeah, like I just he's just like cool and funny to me. I wish they did more with him. Like I wish he was way more of a factor, because in X5 all he did was just like, all you do is just like fight him 2 times like in the middle of you fighting the bosses, and that's it. Like he doesn't show up in the rest of the game. He's not like a Sigma boss or anything like that. And in X6 he's like barely even does anything compared to X5. Like, you just fight him off a secret stage, and that's it. Like, but I just think he's just a really cool character, but I wish that he would be fleshed out, because if he was, then I feel like he would be much higher on this list. For number 9, I have Gate from Megaman X6. I would say Gate is probably one of the most fleshed out antagonists in the whole Megaman X series. So in the beginning of Mega Man X6, you see Gate, he picks up a piece of Zero from the carnage of Mega Man X5. However, this piece of Zero like just turns him totally insane, and he just gets obsessed with Zero and creating all these Mavericks and everything, and researching him and X. So he creates like these 8 Mavericks called Nightmare Investigators. He creates HiMax, and I'll get to another spoiler later what he creates or helps create. But going to Gate's backstory, pretty much he was like, him and Alia worked together in like this research lab or something like that, and he was very skilled. He created all of these well-known, well-made robots and everything, and I guess other Reploids saw it as a threat, and so they disposed of him. And Alia, even though like she really wasn't a part of it, she had to do her job, and her job was to let them know what Gate was working on. And once they found out, they disposed of most of his Reploids that he created, and that pretty much turned him mad. He left the research lab, and he just wanted to do things on his own, and that just led to the events of X6, and that's the reason why he does what he does. But yeah, once you play through the game, you defeat HiMax and everything, you go to his lab, you face him, and he has like this golden armor, and the only way you can damage him is that you hit his attacks yourself, and it reflects back to him. Once you defeat him, he ends up reviving Sigma, but then like Sigma's like, no, you didn't do this, I was already alive, or whatever. And then he just straight up destroys Gate, and then of course you fight Sigma and everything. Also, he was the one that created like the Zero Nightmare, and pretty much he was trying to say that the Zero Nightmare is the reason for all these incidents and stuff, and the Mavericks that he made were like Nightmare Investigators. It's all politics and stuff. Like he's a really interesting character. Like he did all that. But I just wish that like he was the main villain of X6, like how Lumina is the main villain of X8, and like he had like the final boss battle, like maybe he fused with HiMax or Isaac or something like that. But yeah, I think Gate is a really good villain, one of my favorite villains in Megaman X series. Alright, so for number 8, we have Colonel from Megaman X4. Colonel's a very cool character, especially if you play with Zero. Like, you'll really get to like know about him more and who he is. So Colonel, he's the leader, or one of the leaders of Repliforce, and so pretty much the premise of X4 is that like Repliforce is blamed for the attack on the Sky Lagoon, and so the Maverick Hunters pretty much have to pretty much assume that Repliforce is the cause of like all this destruction. And the thing is with Colonel, like he's very prideful. When Zero in the intro stage, when Zero meets up with Colonel, He tells Colonel to like disarm um, Repliforce and come back to the Maverick Hunter HQ for questioning. But then he's like, "I'm prideful. We will never let down our weapons or bloody whatever like that," because he's British. So pretty much because he didn't like, come back for questioning, Repliforce was marked as like, a terrorist organization or a Maverick organization, but in reality they just wanted independence from the Maverick Hunters, because they're just being accused of things that they weren't doing, and it come to find out is Sigma who is like manipulating the Repliforce and into his bidding, and so things go down. After you beat some of the Repliforce members, you face Colonel, and with Zero, when you defeat Colonel, like it's very interesting for a point that I will mention later on this list. But yeah, Colonel, he's a very cool character. He's prideful, strong military guy with a cool lightsaber sword. So yeah. For number 7, we have my main man, the maker of Megaman and Megaman X, the creator of all of these Reploids, and the reason why all this junk is going on in this whole series. My favorite blue hologram, Dr. Light. So, as I just stated, Dr. Light created Megaman X, and then that just led the blueprint for all the Reploids. And what I really like about Dr. Light is that, he gives Megaman all of these upgrades and everything. I guess he just hid all these capsules throughout the whole Megaman X series, and gave Megaman X all these upgrades and everything. And so yeah, the reason why he's up here on number 7 is because he's the reason X gets all these cool armors, like the first armor, Falcon armor, Ultimate armor, like all these cool armors that boost up Megaman X's powers. And playing through the Megaman X games and finding these Dr. Light capsules, it's just a important factor in the whole X series. You always, in every game, you always go around finding these capsules, and they're just so satisfying. And it's you just get that boost of power, you can just run through everybody, especially when you get the ultimate armor. Forget about it, it's over. So that's why I got Dr. Light at number 7. For number 6, I have Axel. So Axel, he was introduced very late in the X series. He's only playable in X7 and X8. So yeah, Axel's introduced in X7. He's a prototype, next generation Reploid. And he was part of this organization called Red Alert, but then he defected from it, and then he joined the Maverick Hunters. But he had to fight in order to stay with the Maverick Hunters. It wasn't just easy. But yeah, he's playable in X7, and he has he hovers, and he has a gun he can shoot from all different directions. And he also has a copy chip where he can copy different Reploids and some of the abilities that they have, even though I don't think it's the most useful. But yeah, I really like Axel's design. I think he's really cool, and I'm glad they introduced him as a playable character, especially in X8, because that's a better game than X7. But yeah, he's really cool. His personality, he's kind of more carefree than X and Zero, but he gets a little bit more mature in X8. But in X7, he's kind of very childlike. So yeah, Axel, he's really cool. All right, now we're down to the top 5. And for number 5, we have everyone's waifu, well, specifically Zero's waifu, Iris. So Iris is the sister of Colonel, and she was also introduced in Megaman X4. Throughout the game, she, tags along with, well, not tags along, but she interacts with Zero, and they like form a relationship. But things kind of go sour because Zero and Colonel are rivals, and they just keep getting each other way, and they just keep fighting. And Iris doesn't like that, and she's afraid that if they keep fighting, that one of them will kill each other. And unfortunately, that's kind of what happened. Zero ends up killing Colonel. And then when you get to the I forgot what it's called, like ultimate weapon stage or whatever, you end up going to the boss room, and it's Iris. So she's like very upset that Zero killed Colonel, and so she just like loses it, just gets in like this battle armor, and then when you're playing with Zero, you have to like destroy it, but then you end up killing Iris, and then like this cutscene plays, which is very meme material. It's been a meme for a long time. What am I fighting for? But yeah, that's why I have Iris as number 5. She's very well known. She's a lot of people's sweetheart in the Megaman X series. So yeah. At number 4, we have one of the classic characters in the Megaman X series, Val. Yeah, Val, he's like the very first villain you see in the Megaman X series, like in X1, in the intro stage when you get to the very end, you fight him as X, and then Val, he, grabs you, and then Zero blasts his arm off, or whatever. So yeah, Val, he was originally a Maverick hunter like X and Zero, but then he turned into a Maverick along with Sigma and a whole bunch of other Mavericks, so pretty much he works for Sigma. But yeah, so in X1, after you fight him the first time, when you go into Sigma stage, him and Zero square off, and then I think Zero gets captured, and then you fight him, and then Zero breaks out, blows himself up, but he only ends up blowing up the battle armor. And then by this time with X, you're more powerful, so you're actually able to destroy him. And so that's the first game that he's shown. The next game he's shown is X3, where Dr. Dopler revives him, and so he's back for vengeance. So you play as X, and then you can go into like his secret lair and like either fight him there, or you can fight him in one of the Doppler stages. Either way, you destroy him again for that. And then his last appearance is in Megaman X8, and he pretty much is a crutch again. He bothers X, Zero, and Axel, and then you just keep running into him. And then when you get to the Sigma stage, you finally you finally defeat him there. But yeah, I have Val as high because he's just like the original villain, and like he's just very cold and menacing, and he looks like Boba Fett. So that gives him points right there, especially in X8 because he's green, and he just looks like Boba Fett. So. Alright, so I'm sure you guys probably know who these last 3 characters are going to be. It's so obvious. But let's start with number 3. So number 3, we have the main antagonist of this whole series, Sigma. Sigma, he was originally a Maverick hunter as well. I think he was actually the leader of the Maverick hunters. But then one day, he found Zero in like this little place, and he went in there to investigate. And then when he went in there, Zero was attacking him, whatever. So they they scrapped or whatever. And then Sigma, he punched Zero's like head jewel, and it was infected with like the Dr. Wily virus or whatever. And so pretty much that like switched like the evilness from Zero to Sigma, and then Sigma just ended up like being corrupted, and he became a Maverick, and then he pretty much created like the whole Maverick situation, and then he's just been an antagonist like ever since. And like in every X game, you know, you fight him, he always gives X and Zero a hard time. He's menacing, he's cruel, he ain't no joke. So that's why like Sigma is just like top 3. So all right, so who's gonna be number 2? Is it gonna be X or is it gonna be Zero? Well, it may surprise some of you, but X is number 2. How you number 2 in your own franchise, man? I don't know, but yeah, X is number 2, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But you know, X, he's the main character of the game. His series is called Megaman X. You know, you play with him majority of the whole series except for X7. I don't understand why you can't really play with him X7. It's called Megaman X. I don't understand. Anyway, yeah, he's the upgraded form of Mega Man. You know, you get all the powers and the dashing, and yeah, I guess I'll go a little backstory about him. You know, he was created by, you know, Dr. Light in order to like restore peace or whatever, and he has total free will and ultimate potential, and he can potentially be like the most powerful Reploid ever, even stronger than Zero. And yeah, Mega Man X is like my favorite video game character of all time. Like, he's just awesome, and I just love his armors, I love his powers, and he's just like really cool. But for some reason I still have Zero as number 1, and we're about to find out why. So really quickly, I'm just gonna go over some honorable mentions that didn't make the top 15 list. So Bit and Byte, they're from Mega Man X3. They're pretty much kind of like the X Hunters, Mega Man X2, and they're pretty much there to get in your way. But I like their little final form when you get to one of the Dopler stages. Dr. Kane. Dr. Kane, he's actually the one that discovered X after he was sealed away, and he created the blueprint to have like all these Reploids. So he's a very important character, and he's also in Mega Man X2 and X3, but he doesn't really do that much there. Cygnus, he was introduced in X5, and he's the new leader of the Reploids, and pretty much, you know, you see him throughout the games in the background, just like, you know, leading the charge and everything on what the Maverick Hunters like need to do and everything. But yeah, he's a pretty cool character. Isaac, he was introduced in X6, and that's his only game. I have him as honorable mention because just like Surges, it seems like he is kind of like Dr. Wily. Like, he really is obsessed with Zero, and he probably has like a piece of Dr. Wily in him or something like that. Red, like I said, I've never really played X7, nor I really cared about it, but yeah, he's the one that created Red Alert, and I know he's an antagonist in X7, so yeah, I had to include him on there. Layer, she's a new navigator in X8, and she kind of has a crush on Zero. So there's that. Palette, she's also a new navigator in X8, and she has a pretty fun personality, so I had her on here. Double is from Mega Man X4, And as the name implies, he's a double agent. He just seems, in the beginning, he just seems like he's just this fat, chubby, nice little Reploid. But then when you get to the final weapon, he's a menacing double agent that just slaughters everybody. It's crazy. Rest in peace, Green Biker Dude. That's all I gotta say. I have the General. He's also an X4. He's the General of the Reploid Force. He's really, really big, and I hate fighting him, so I have him as an honorable mention. Douglas, he's introduced in Megaman X5, and I really like him because he equips all the nice armors that you get, from then on there. So he's really cool. And also, finally, Lifesaver. I think he's only in X5 and X6. You don't really see him that much. But yeah, he played a little bit of a role. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions. And now you're about to see the very obvious number one. All right, so Zero's number one. And I'll explain the reason why he's number one. So Zero, he's like the main buddy for Megaman X. He's in pretty much every Megaman X game, even though he died in some of them. But like, Zero is always like someone that X looked up to. And he just has like this, I don't know, just cool, aura to him and everything. But yeah, he's created by Dr. Wily. He was actually meant to combat X or combat Dr. Light's creations, but that didn't work out too well. And X and Zero actually ended up being friends, and I'm sure Dr. Wily isn't happy about that. But anyway, Zero, he first becomes playable technically in X3, but he's kind of underutilized. But I feel like in Megaman X4, that's when Zero really took the shine and stole the show. Like, ever since X4, like, I feel like his character development is just way more advanced than X's. Like, obviously X is the main character, he's gonna have a lot of character development, but I don't know, I feel like Zero's a little bit more fleshed out, and like, with X4 and the whole Iris Kernel situation, and X5 is pretty much a Zero game. X5, X6, I guess X7, since X isn't really in that game, and not really X8, but those last couple of games, like, is all about Zero, and like, he really like steals the show, and his moveset is just like really, really cool. It's like you're just like this samurai just jumping up and slashing enemies and stuff, and it's all like close quarters, and it makes the game much more challenging. Instead of just like being able to blast and have all these armor parts, you really gotta like be skillful and like learn how to use all his abilities. He has a really nice set of abilities. Like, he has like a flaming uppercut, like an ice sickle down sword move, and a whole bunch of other abilities that are pretty iconic. So yeah, Zero is really awesome, and he ended up like getting his own series and everything. So that's my top 10, top 15, not top 10. And yeah, I got Zero at number one.